You're listening to the Catholic Wives Desiring Peace podcast. Today's episode is all about power.
Are you a Catholic wife grappling with challenging in-laws? The Catholic Wives Desiring Peace podcast is your sanctuary for navigating these sometimes stormy seas of life with toxic in-laws, while being validated for what you've experienced. Join me, your host, Miriam Susan, a Catholic wife who's weathered nearly 3 decades of in-law drama, as we tackle the tough issues you're dealing with head on.
Welcome to the Catholic Wives Desiring Peace podcast. I am your host, Miriam Susan, and this is going to be a short food for thought episode because life is just a little bit crazy this week. We've got cold temperatures coming into the southeast that this body is not used to feeling. And we just have a lot of stuff going on as life gets back into the swing of things here in 2025. So I hope that your new year is off to a great start. And if not, if your in-laws are being extra trying, I wanted to give you this little thing to think about this year. And that is that you have tremendous power in your family. You have a tremendous authority in your family. And that is probably part of the reason why your in-laws go bonkers. They get so crazy when you resist their attempts to control you. And that is because they don't want you to realize the power and the authority that you have, because they don't want you to exercise it. They want you to stay as a doormat daughter-in-law and let them walk all over you and walk all over your family. They try to control you because they know that if you realize the power and the authority, the God-given authority as a woman who is married to their son and who is possibly a mother, you have power that if they don't control you, then they will be forced to live how they are supposed to live. They don't want to live in the role that God has ordained for them at this stage of their lives. If you're married to their son, then their role just got pushed back by quite a lot in terms of importance in their son's life. And a lot of in-laws, especially toxic in-laws, really struggle with that transfer of power. It's like a new boss has come in on the scene and now they've been demoted, except that it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to. If your in-laws are healthy, when you come into the marriage, it should be a wonderful, healthy addition, this expansion of blessings to the entire family. But toxic in-laws don't see things like that, do they? They see you as coming in and taking some of their control and taking some of their power over their son away. Now, chances are, most of us going into a marriage with our husbands didn't see it that way at all. We just saw this family. Some of us probably saw it as a wonderful family to be marrying into. I know I did. And I was so appreciative of how much my husband loved his family. And then I got a peek behind the curtain. And then I saw that it was really a very toxic, enmeshed relationship where my husband was seen as kind of an extension of his family and not his own individual self. And so when I came into the picture, I am very independent minded. And even if you're not, even if you don't tend to be a very independent, strong-willed person, you can still be seen as a threat. And I most definitely was seen as a threat when my husband and I got married. My in-laws got pregnant very young, got married very young, and so they basically kind of grew up with my husband, being an only 16 or 17-year difference between him and his parents. And here I come in, and I'm the outsider. I'm the unknown. I'm the variable. And probably what they saw from the few times that they got to meet me before we got engaged and got married, I'm sure that there were signs that I was not going to be easy to control and easy to manipulate. And so when toxic people realize that now they're not in that position of power anymore, they want it back. They want it back. Kind of like all of the dictators you hear in these far flung countries, or maybe not so far flung countries, where when they start to lose power, that's when things start to go crazy. They start to hunker down. They start to make things even harder because they feel the grip of power going away from them. So I want to encourage you, if you are in this situation where your in laws are going crazy, if they are resisting strongly your boundaries, your assertion of your rightful place in your husband and your family's life, it's because they are not happy giving up control. They are not happy being in a distant place of power in your husband's life. Having in laws that are in a very strong position of power within your marriage, that goes against the proper order of a Catholic family. I encourage you to go back to episode 36 if you have not listened to that episode about understanding Catholic family order. And these toxic people, they don't want to be in the fourth place of importance. God being first, your spouse being second, your children being third, and then everybody else, including mom and dad, neighbors, teachers, people in your parish, those are position number 4 in terms of authority over your Catholic family. So I just wanted to do this episode to remind you, or to let you know, if you've never thought of this concept before, that you do have power for your marriage, for your family, for your own life. You do. And when you start to exercise that power, when you start to exercise that control that we all have over our individual lives, that's when toxic people start to lose their marbles. So if you're facing that, know that it's okay. It's okay for them to have this resistance. That's fairly normal for people who have had a more controlling role to feel that sort of resistance. But what's not okay is when it starts to affect you and your family and your marriage, and when it starts to become enabling their sin by allowing it to happen. So I hope that you can start this year, 2025, knowing that it's okay if people don't accept your assertion of authority and your assertion of power within your family and marriage. It's okay if they don't. That doesn't mean that you have to back down. That doesn't mean that you give in and roll over and be what they might consider is a good Catholic wife. No, you have been given authority by God as a wife and possibly as a mother to assert your autonomy. And that's what I want to encourage you to do. With love, of course, always with love. But sometimes with love sometimes it means making people unhappy. Not because that's your desire to make people unhappy, but sometimes it does. Sometimes people take it that way, and that's on them. So God bless you. I pray that your year is going off to a great start, and I'd love to hear from you. I have a new feature on my website, desiringpeace.com/podcast. If you scroll down, you will see a little button, and you can send me an audio message. I would absolutely love to hear from you. I encourage you, take advantage of that button, send me a message, and if your question that you have is a great topic for me to talk about on the podcast, and I use it, that would be awesome. You could be featured on this podcast. Of course, with privacy, I will not use your full name, but I would love for you to take advantage of that and just reach out to me if you have any questions. I would absolutely love to hear from you. Go to desiringpeace.com/podcast to send me an audio message. God bless you. Go in peace.
Thanks so much for tuning in to today's episode. If you've ever wondered just how toxic your relationship with your in-laws really is, I've got the perfect tool for you. Introducing the new free Toxic In-Laws Assessment, a self-graded quiz designed to help you identify the true level of toxicity in your relationship with your in-laws. Whether you're unsure if your in-laws are really that bad or you think they might be worse than you realize, this assessment will give you the clarity you need. Don't leave it to guesswork. Take the free Toxic In-Laws Assessment now and start your journey towards healthier and more peaceful family dynamics. Visit desiringpeace.com/quiz to get started. Disclaimer. All content and information on this podcast and our website, including our programs, products, and/or services, is for information and educational purposes only and does not constitute professional medical, psychiatric, or mental health advice of any kind, and does not establish any kind of professional client relationship by your listening to this podcast or use of my website. A professional client relationship with you is only formed after we have expressly entered into a written agreement with you that you have signed, including our fee structure and other terms to work with you in a specific matter. Although we strive to provide accurate general information, the information presented here is not a substitute for any kind of professional advice, and you should not rely solely on this information. Always consult a professional in the area for your particular needs and circumstances prior to making any professional, medical, or mental health related decisions.